Okay, we're back. Make sure everything's up and running here. Okay, so this is where we left off last time. We were talking about college debt and poor work habits of students and so forth. And the last point here is many college students believe that they will find high-paying jobs to pay off their debt. Read on. Here's some specific examples. Now, these might be extreme examples for sure, but nevertheless, I think they're indicative of the general overall problem in which the student is not planning or aware of not only cost. And I think these are probably, if you're talking total debt, this may be, I'm guessing this is principal with interest, but I may be mistaken. But you can see the dollar totals here. 72,000, 82, 140,000 down there, bottom left, $250,000. Bottom right, that's the wife and husband accumulating debt there. On average, as I said before, 34 to 36,000 is what most people will pay for a 4-year college degree on average. Some less, of course, some more. And these are generally probably the some more category, right? So, but the problem is, as I said before, people are still believe in the end all and cure all, the degree, the college degree, the bachelor's degree is the end all and cure all. Just go out and get it. Don't think about anything. Just get it. Pay whatever you have to pay. Do whatever you have to do. And if I get that college degree, things will work out. I'll get a job that will be that will pay good enough to, or pay well, I should say, pay well enough to pay off not only college debt, but to afford other things, hopefully, potentially, to buy a home, I would assume, cars, retirement package, vacation, money for vacation, occasionally here and there, and other things, right? So let's just take a general look at what's going on here. Somebody got a master's here in public health. Not really a field that pays well. Took a low-paying government job. That's kind of par for the course. Forbearance after forbearance. Forbearance means that you're trying to put the loan on hold, where you're just paying the interest, right? That I did that once, maybe twice, after graduating from college, because you're just starting out and you're not always making good money. Most people are not making good money right off the bat. After they've graduated from college, it takes several years at least in most cases. Financial burden frustrates me to no end is the quote here. Right underneath that is MS Health Science, $82,000, 3 years, still no master's level position, $19 an hour contract work. So this is not knowing enough or looking enough at the realities. What is the degree going to cost me? What are the availability of jobs out there? What are the jobs paying? And you have to take into consideration taxes. Some of this stuff seems obvious, but I remember one student spoke to me and said, and this was probably maybe 10 years ago, said to me that, Professor Brown, I'm going to make $90,000 a year and look like a king. And of course, this is California. Nobody's living like a king on $90,000 a year. And you have to think about taxes. You have to think about income tax, payroll tax, tax on pretty much everything. Tax on your gas, your car, your home, your clothes, your food, right? So taxes take up a good portion, about anywhere from 30 to 40% of your paycheck. So, that turns that 90,000 into maybe 50 or 60,000, right? So another thing to think about, people just do not think things through. They just kind of fly by the seat of their pants. This one, I'd like to know a little more about the bottom two, especially. The other ones are pretty high, 70s, 80s, but the bottom two, 140,000, political science. What exactly do you do with a political science degree other than teach political science? No idea what money meant at 17. There you go. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Pay for college on my own, has used forbearance. There we go. Debt is life swallowing, all consuming hole in my life. Okay. BA in graphic design, $87,000. Now I know my sister got a degree in graphic design and she had her own business and she wasn't making a lot of money. Her husband was also had a business, and I think he was designing oh, what was it? He's an engineer and designing I forget exactly what it was, like drill bits or parts or something. I forget what it was, but it was, you know, his business that was really helping them to stay afloat. Eventually she gave up on her graphic design business, so you're not going to make a lot of money. 87,000. Of course, keep in mind, if that's just the principal, then you've got to pay interest on that. And you know, if you hold on, if that loan, if you have to pay off that loan over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, that's going to add up, right? Barely able to afford rent. Half of the money goes to loans, part-time job on top of it, vacation, date with a girlfriend, buy new clothes, maybe someday, right? Journalism, 80,000. And then you've got the social workers down here. Wife also social worker, right? And social worker, that's a very low paying position, right? When loans are paid, we'll be 67, too late for children. So that sad, but this is where, and I think these are probably extreme cases. And I think I got these from CNN Money, CNN.com. Anyways, so you just gotta be aware, right? So what's going on? Well, your friend here, your friendly neighborhood spider professor, I guess you got to take a look at some things, right? Even with a college degree, talked about this before, 70% missing to achieve the basic knowledge, skills, and attitudes, right? So what do you do? Here's some ideas, some things to think about. And some of these are quite involved, such as a sword shield, and I'll talk about that in a minute. 100% responsibility for your life, okay? So this is what I was talking about, where one of the first things you have to do is discover, discern who you are, right? Briggs-Myers typology test, the Jung typology test. There's all these different types of personality or character type tests. You know, you can find out a lot of different things about yourself. You know, your character, your intelligence type, and allegedly there's roughly nine types of intelligence. What else is there? Your learning style. How do you best take information in? Are you a verbal person? Are you good at picking up information auditorily, verbally? Do you have to pick it up through the written word? Are you more of a tactile person? Do you have to engage within your environment to learn? You know, how do you learn, right? So there's all these different things, and there's really no standard for picking up on these very essential knowledge bases about yourself that are out there. They're floating out there, and occasionally you might get a teacher or a counselor or a parent or somebody who knows, who kind of just says, hey, you should go read that book. What color is your parachute? That's another one. You know, what color your parachute? What is your personality type? What are your key interests, strengths? You know, and that's something else that I work with my clients on. You know, what are your key strengths? What are your value systems? What do you value? Do you value excitement and risk more than safety? Then you probably don't want to sit in a cubicle in an office the rest of your life. Do you value your independence more, or family more, right? What are your values? What is your value system? That type of thing. Do you really value helping people, saving society, or you don't really value that? So you don't want to get involved in something where your basic core interests, your natural leanings or inclinations, you don't want to get involved in something where you're working against those, right? Because you may be able to function decently, even maybe at a high level for a short period of time, but over a long period of time, because it's not a natural, innate, inborn tendency, right? You didn't have it with you when you were born. It's not a strength, it's a weakness. So you want to work to your strengths, strengthen your weaknesses, that type of thing. Know why you are here. That's kind of what I was talking about. Conceive, believe, and achieve. You have to have a plan. That's always big. Specific outcome, have a vision, and that's a part of the plan. Shoot, then aim, forget details. One of the things you want to do, you certainly want to plan. You want to do your research. You want to find out about yourself. You want to find, character, personality type, natural inclinations, and, where you might go to get your education or your learning, your knowledge acquisition. Maybe it's experiential. You want to go out and actually get involved in something hands-on that will help you to learn the skill or knowledge or attitudes that you need in order to be successful, right? But you can't plan it out too much, right? You just want to get a general idea and then just go. So that's shoot and then aim, or adjust your aim, the precision of the shot as you move forward. And I can tell you from personal experience, unless you're a Nostradamus or can see into the future, you're a godlike person, nobody really knows. So it takes a while to wind your way, find your way. Homework, massive action. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of heavy, consistent effort. When I was starting my business or just starting out on my path, after I received my advanced degrees, or my degrees and my advanced degree, I was working probably 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Just a constant, continuous learning, effort, knowledge acquisition, research, study, contemplation, reflect, journal, whatever, to get the ideas flowing, to see where I needed to be, right? Not what somebody else says you need to be, or what your president wants, or what your counselor wants, or what your parents want, right? Because who's going to spend more time with you than you, right? So you can definitely take some advice and some suggestions, but who knows more about you than you? Who spends more time with you than you? Right? That's why you have to have that inner turning. My company is called Inner Projection, right? So what is in here is projected out, and you should be able to work as diligently as possible to find what's in there, to pull it out. So it does get projected out. You don't want to stifle it, ignore it, not tap into it or look into it, research it, right? Failure is not an option because you're going to fail. True. And I've seen that before. Failure is not an option. Those who take the greatest risks, the biggest risks, who want the most, are probably the ones that are going to fail more. I think it was Michael Jordan who said, I've probably failed more than most because I've taken more shots, right? I've taken more risks. But ultimately, as you're taking more shots, you're practicing, you're shooting more, you're working harder than most people, first to the gym, first there, last to leave. There was some player who was taking like 500. He would go to practice hard, and then after the practice was over, would shoot around, take 500 shots, and then wake up early and be the first one at the gym and do some other drills and stuff and whatever. There was a story about what was it? It was Kobe. I think it was Kobe Bryant. And they were this team was the dream team. What was that? The 90s or something? Team that play for the United States. And most of the players weren't taking it that seriously. One night they went out to party and they were just getting in. The sun was coming up, just getting in. And they're coming into the hotel and Kobe Bryant's leaving. And they asked him, where are you going? He goes, well, I usually work out every morning. I go and lift and run, and then I go to practice, right? So why was he as good as he was, right? And there's stories of some of the best shooters in the league in the NBA who did, would go out and just take 500 shots or try to make, take 100 shots. And if they didn't make 80%, start over and keep going and keep going and keep going, until they made 80% or passed out or died or something, right? Your greatest asset, ask. If you don't know, ask, get some help. Sword shield. Now that's a, excuse me. I can put that in the description below the video. Sword shield. It's a book called Thick-Faced Blackheart, and it's written by a Chinese businesswoman, and it's really got some and I think you can get it online for free if you just type in the title and then PDF. Anyways, I'll put the information down below. And it's really a success book that is not like one of those typical kind of hokey self-help books, you know, do these things. It's very straightforward. It's some of the things it talks about are very kind of, you know, make your eyes pop wide open. What? Can't believe she said that, you know. So it's very real. It's very down to earth. I've had a lot of students and clients say a lot of things, good things about it, but I'll put a link down below. Learning never stops. Talked about that. Keep track of things. Always know what's going on. Don't just muddle through life, right? And most of what I'm talking about, that's, you know, having a plan, doing your homework, doing your due diligence, sticking to the plan, making modifications and changes as you need, as you go, right? Practice to overcome weaknesses. Be a problem solver, not a complainer. Yes, I cannot stand that. And people seem to be that way in general, generally speaking. I go on to a lot of sports chats and people are just complaining constantly, you know. Unless a team is on a winning streak, you know, they've won 9 games in a row, then finally, you know, the people are happy, or they win the championship. Finally, people are happy. But then they're going to go right back to miserable, because how many 9-game winning streaks do teams have, or how many teams win championships regularly, right? Grew up a Red Sox fan, so I spent about 30 years watching in frustration as the Red Sox failed time and time and time and time again, right? So if I was going to let that control my life, then I would have been driven nuts, right? So finally, 2004, they won, you know, and they've won a few more times since then. But the majority of the time, not winning. Even Michael Jordan, he's, you know, 70%. Tiger Woods, one of the most prolific and successful golfers in the history of golf, PGA, and he still loses 75, 78% of the time, right? You aren't what you are forever. You can change. Only big goals will see you through. So you got to have something that's pushing you or pulling you through. And that's why I say you really got to do something that comes from inside, you know, not extrinsic. Go to where the money is, or where the hot jobs are, or where my parents say, or say I should go, or my friends are working, or whatever. It's intrinsic. And here's some more stuff. Habits determine quality of life, your future. Most bad habits don't show up until later in life. It takes a while for those things to come through. And I've seen that in celebrities. You usually don't see them like in their 20s or 30s, but usually by 40s or 50s, really bad habits and patterns show up, you know, in drug issues and perverse behavior, or sometimes it's so bad they end up going to prison, you know, for the things that they end up getting caught for that they've been doing for some time. How you treat people makes or breaks success. You can see that most people in most fields who last treat people pretty well. Self-confidence is a skill that needs to be learned. I had 0. When I was younger, 0. It took me years to develop self-confidence. I was always down, always depressed. And I said to myself, well, this is either going to end up ugly, or I don't live anymore, or I'm going to fix it. So pull myself up from the bootstraps, even though that doesn't make sense, because you can't pull because your feet are down on, you know, the gravity makes it hard for you to pull yourself up, but you know what I mean. Anyways, and you really got to practice confidence. You know, I remember the first thing I did was I started walking upright and looking at people in the eye, and actually looking at people, you know, and engaging people, and getting up. I used to volunteer and just get up in front of people, even though it took me a while to actually be able to think and not want to feel like I was going to pass out. Or actually, I was actually able to talk and say something after a while. But then eventually I got up. I did stand-up comedy for about 6-7 years. I've been teaching and lecturing and speaking before people, dozens, hundreds, thousands of people, you know, time and time again. So I've turned a weakness into a strength. There you go. Don't just teach it and preach it. Do it. Find out what you need. Ask. We talked about that already. Be persistent, even if you have to go it alone. If you know you need it, if you know you got to do it, right? Because if you don't do it, they say, many have said, many have said over time, that it's not so much what you It's not so much what you've done, but what you haven't done that you regret in the end, you know. If people don't like you, it's usually their problem. So true. Learn to develop the intuitive to work toward your best chance for success. And there's more. Bottom line, most of these schools, colleges give what they believe you need, irrespective of its real world value or customer satisfaction and need. So true. Main focus of education is linguistics and math. This is what I was talking about, the 9 intelligence types. So if you're in school, maybe not so much college, but definitely school, primary, secondary, elementary, high school. If you felt ostracized, if you felt dumb in school, don't feel bad. The only 2 types of intelligence, not the only, but the focus, I should say, the main focus is on language and logic, or math and science, right? So if you're not a linguist, if you're not good with language, if you don't like speaking it, thinking it, writing it, or if you're not good with computations, logic, mathematics, science, and that's probably about 70, 80% of people are not, right? What's 2 out of 9? So that's about 22%, maybe, something like that. So school is about for maybe 20 at the highest end, maybe 20-25% of all students, right? Most don't find high school that interesting or engaging, to be honest. Education mostly dictates to students with little asking of specific needs, interests, desires, creating a single plan for millions of highly diverse individuals, right? So you get these standardized tests, and that standardized, there's the word right there, right? There's a lot of differentiation between people, right? And we are all packaged, you know, we are packaged by our age, by our sex sometimes, and by other qualifiers. But maybe, you know, some of us are really good at learning in the afternoon. Maybe we do best at learning at night. Maybe we really don't like mathematics until later in life. I didn't like math at all until I was probably freshman in high school, right? And I think most of that had to do with the fact that I wasn't good at math, and I got a tutor, and I remember she was very pretty and she smelled great. So maybe that was the impetus to get into the math. And then eventually I was really interested in, you know. And in college, I took algebra. I took the same class twice. I got an A, and then I got another A. I don't know. You know, that's why I told you I was going to major in mathematics. But when I was younger, I was terrible, right? So we're not all the same at the same time. Even we individually change, right? So that's why it's tough. That's why education, trying to, you know, herd all of these vastly unique individuals into one particular corral, one particular direction, one particular time, one particular way. That's why education has problems, no matter when or where it's administered. With little checking as to student satisfaction, or how practical, useful, successful an education is, one often wonders exactly how useful any given curriculum is, right? And again, some of this is inspired from Academically Adrift. More on what you need. Self-motivation, autonomy, accountability. The more autonomous or self-choosing the behavior, the greater the authenticity, thus success of choice. So again, that's going inside, you making the choice intrinsically based on, and it's not selfishness, but self-interest. Selfishness is sitting around, laying around, complaining, eating, doing nothing, and demanding, and just being annoying. You know, you're just focusing on the self. You're a glutton, right? But self-interest is where you need to be. You need to be interested in what's inside of you. You know, I want to be fill in the blank, right? So what do I need to do? What do I need to learn about me in order to move forward more successfully with more energy and rigor, right? And that's where the autonomy means you're choosing. You're autonomous, right? You're not highly influenced. It's okay to be influenced to a degree, but you're not highly influenced by external sources. It's mostly coming from inside here. Self-motivation is at the heart of the greatest creativity, learning, responsibility, achievement, healthy behavior, lasting change. So how do we get students to learn? What type of pedagogy do we use, or teaching techniques? What type of testing do we use? How do we discipline our students to do the things that we want them or ask them to do? All of that is external, right? That's not going to result, in most cases, most of the time, result in a highly efficient individual who's really motivated to do something, right? So once you find what it is inside of you that really turns you on, that gets you going, that gets you interested, gets you up in the morning, gets you engaged, right? That's when all the stuff starts to gel. Your ability to be creative, to learn, to achieve, healthy behavior, lasting change. When you're happy and you're matching your external with the internal, right? You know what's going on in here, and then you find out ways out here to build upon and to maximize what's going on in here, right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Key to greatest achievement, thus success and happiness, joy even requires individual to gain greatest intrinsic self-motivation. What I said, what he just said. To thine own self be true. A lot of superheroes there. Most of them I don't know. Marvel, love Marvel. Oh, we saw DC. We saw The Flash. Good movie. Multiverse. Everything's multiverse. Marvel did it. DC did it. It's becoming endless multiverse superhero movies. Anyways, here we go. Know your natural talents, abilities, gifts. 8 intelligence types. This is what I was talking about before. I had 9, but I guess this concept is there's fewer here. Language, logic, and the first 2, that's your high school experience. Most of high school education focuses around linguistic intelligence, linguistic or logical intelligence, right? And then, of course, these are the fields that you would probably want to go into. There are these tests that you can take once you take your Jung typology test or your Briggs-Myers test. And once you find out where your personality lies, usually, and there's a test, and I'll put that link in there too, put that link in the video. There's a typology test that you can take. And at the end of the test, it will give you some suggestions on what majors or fields you would probably be most inclined to enjoy and be good at, to excel in, right? Spatial is, space. That's what Leonardo da Vinci was. He was an artist. First thing he liked to do in the morning, once he got up, go outside, out in space, to observe shape and form and shadow, right? That's why he became a very good artist. He was able to represent reality well on the page, right? And what he used to do is take an object. I don't know. I don't have any. Maybe something like this. Here's a pencil sharpener. I guess something like this. That has odd angles on it, or unusual angles, and he would draw it, turn a little bit, draw it, turn a little bit, draw it, so that he was able to see all the way around, right? And he was able to see all the angles and shapes and how everything worked, how reality reflected upon this part or piece or item in reality, and how did light affect it as he's moving it around? Where does shadow go, shape and form, and how does that all work, right? And he did that so many times over repetitively that he was able to take reality, and put it on a page, right? Take 3D and make it 2D and make it look good, right? Function in that way. Body, kinesthetic, your athlete, coach, actor, music. Interpersonal, that's kind of interesting. There's intra and inter. Interpersonal is acting with people. Intrapersonal is like reflective. So intrapersonal is your thinking. You're a theorist, researcher, philosopher, writer, poet, musical, writer. You're intrapersonal. Naturalistic, that's also kind of the Da Vinci category, right? How do you think? Your success types, learning styles. This is the Briggs-Myers stuff that I was talking about. How do you recharge your battery? Extrovert people in this category pay attention to people and things around them. So this is kind of what you'll get. There's 60 questions. When you come home and you're tired, what do you prefer to do? Grab the phone, call people up, and go and hang out with people, or just retire to your bedroom and read a book, right? Or somewhere along that scale, which one do you prefer to do, A, B, C, or D, right? And then based on that array of possible answers, where you end up on that array of possible answers, the test begins to determine your character type, right? Basically. And they'll ask that question numerous times in different forms, right? They might ask that same question or category of that same category question 6 or 7 times, because once is not good enough. And they're going to have to get, it's like a picture, right? You get a snapshot of somebody. I got to take several pictures because one picture is not going to be show you in the best light. So one question is not going to show your personality type or that aspect or that aspect of your personality type in one shot in one picture. So that it takes, and that's what it does. It's numerous categories, 60 questions, maybe there's 10, 12 general categories, and then it asks you 3, 4, 5 questions in each of those 10 or 12 categories, right? How do you gather information and what do you trust? Sensing, intuition. How do you make decisions, judge, conclude? People like thinking. People like to make decisions objectively using logic, principles, analysis. They weigh evidence in a detached manner. Feeling, people who value harmony. Now, you're not necessarily just all one or the other, because I was thinking in this one, I kind of overlap. I probably lean more towards the thinking, but there's also a good amount of feeling in there, right? So I'm not going to be just 10 thinking, feeling 0, right? I might be 7 thinking, I'm going to say 6 thinking, 4 feeling, right? So but I have a tendency, or I lean in the thinking path, or thinking way. Okay. How do you relate to the outer world? You think, speaking of thinking, critical, creative, intuitive thinking. This is a concept that I devised. I don't know if anybody else has come up with this. Maybe it's out there. But in order to move forward in life, make decisions in your personal life, in your career, and again, you can use these techniques anywhere, right? It's critical thinking. Critical thinking is going deeper, right? Like when you read a story, right? You read a story or see a story. On the surface, it might say that Bob went to the store and he saw Judy there, and he picked up a pen. He didn't need it. He went up, he picked up a pen and bought it, right? What did that really mean underneath? Well, it meant that he was interested in her, had nothing to do with the pen, right? So that's critical thinking, going deeper. Creative thinking is the problem. We talked about problem solving. So as a creative thinker, you're going to need to solve problems, right? And then intuition, Einstein talked about that. If you have a problem, you want to solve a problem, the idea or the eureka usually just comes out of somewhere. We don't know where it comes from. Some say it comes from inside, it comes from external sources. Maybe if you're religious, it comes from the spirit or something like that. Where is it coming from? Who knows? But you've probably had intuitive thoughts or creative thoughts sometimes, just a really cool idea that comes out of nowhere. I remember I was listening to my friend of mine talk one time, and her daughter came over and had a question. She said, "Mom, when I die, will I dream of dinosaurs?" Wow. Where did that come from, right? What? Dinosaurs? Dream of dinosaurs, right? And again, and she was pretty young, so she was probably in the like 3 to 5 age group. And if you look at, remember the divergent thinking, most kids at that age have a genius level divergent thinking, to think out of the box, that type of thinking. That was definitely out of the box. So this is the thinking mode or model that is kind of pretty exhaustive. If you're going to be problem solving, you need to be a good critical thinker. You need to be creative, and you need to use intuition. Think your way to success, critical thinking, going deep, analyzing. We talked about this before. Analyzing, judging, or doing what you'll do most of your life. Majority of students not learning along with complex thinking and writing skills. So I don't know if critical thinking these days is offered in high school. When I was substitute teaching, I didn't see it much. I don't think I saw it at all. It's offered in college. You don't have to take it, I don't think. But it's usually freshman or sophomore year. You take one class. I mean, it's a very difficult concept to just be exposed to, for 4 months and then master it or really understand it. So I always felt that high school should probably offer you a critical thinking class twice. You should be required to take 2 critical thinking classes, just like you need to take 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 2 years of critical thinking. And then when you get to college, take another year or 2, right? Because most employers say that most students are not good critical thinkers. Creative thinking, right? We talked about that before, the creative sector. So creative thinking is problem solving or finding solutions, right? Through creating solutions. There is no answer. You have a question, you have A and B. You have a question A, you need to get the answer to B. I don't know. Nobody's ever come up with that answer. Light bulb, I don't know, light bulb. I got to take 1,000 shots at it before I finally discover it, right? Diverge, 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 diverge. Finally, got it, right? So creative thinking is a part of the thinking process, essential component of the thinking problem-solving process. Then intuitive thinking, right? According to great achievers, it's what you need. Donald Trump, Mohammed El-Arian. Mohammed El-Arian is one of the top individuals in economics. I think he managed, if I remember correctly, he managed Harvard's money for a while. He's been at some of the top financial firms in the United States. I heard Ben Shapiro talk about him a couple times. Ben Franklin, right? Thomas Paine, Leonardo da Vinci, Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's what you need. So all of these people have talked about intuition and many more. Without intuition, greatness is not achieved, right? Allegedly. So, and that's true. Because what does greatness generally come from? It comes from having really interesting, unique, groundbreaking ideas, right? Groundbreaking book or music style or a business or business application or innovation, something, right? Here's your intuition stuff. John Nesbitt, best-selling author, he states, intuition becomes increasingly valuable in the new information society precisely because there is so much data, right? And I talked about that before. In the information age, it's not so much the information age anymore, but the recommendation age, where you have to be the expert. You have to sift through all that data. There's too much out there, right? And you got to, not only sift through it, but you're not going to go through all of it. You got to get a certain amount of it, feel for what's out there, right? Maybe 10% of all the data that's out there in order to really problem solve, to come up with a solution in a particular discipline or capacity. And how do you really know what's right or wrong? At some point, you just, like Einstein said, at some point, you just have to put the books down and kind of go with your gut instinct, and go from there. And Mohammed El-Arian, speaking of that, in his book, and I forget the name of the book. I think I have it right here. Oh, I left my something about when markets collide. There it is. Yes, I have it. Mohammed El-Arian, When Markets Collide, right? He talks about, I don't know if that's reflecting too much. He talks about the fact when he was on the floor, when he was a stockbroker, and he was on the floor as a stockbroker. There was one guy, they all went to school, they took classes, and they're all in training to be stockbrokers. There was one guy who was always able to see through the noise, right? The noise is all this information, stuff that, you do your research on a particular stock in a particular company to figure out what's going on. And is the stock going to go up or down? What's the business sector? What's the product or service in the business sector that they're working in? And how does this line up with what's the other products and or services that are being offered in that business? Is it new? Is it groundbreaking? Has the company been around for a while? All the stuff you have to research in order to figure out where stocks are going to go, right? And I'm no expert, so I'm just repeating what I read. And Mohammed El-Arian mentioned the fact that this one guy was able to see through the noise. His intuition was off the charts. So for some reason, somehow, some way, he was better. He was more talented, innately, naturally, innately inside, right? Talented, right? And he was able to decode, decipher, discern, figure out, right? Really, what was going on better than most people. So all human knowledge thus begins with intuitions, Immanuel Kant, proceeds thence to concepts and ends with ideas. There it is. The only real valuable thing is intuition, right? All ideas begin in here. If it's a town, if it's a city, if it's a political concept, if it's a chair, a desk, a computer, whatever it is, a human, a family, right? All of these things begin in the mind, right? Mind is a terrible thing to waste. What now? Tips for career and life success. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there because, again, this is quite long and there's quite a bit here, so I don't want to tax you too much. I think the first video might have been a little too lengthy. My wife said it was. she came in the room towards the end when I was finishing up. I was going to finish up anyways, and she sat on the couch and she's texting me, "I'm hungry," so she wanted to go get something to eat. But anyways, so I'm going to stop here. We'll see you next time, and be good humans.